Hey, you'll need a couple of things for this session. I might say it again just to make sure that everyone's prepped and ready, but you will need it. There's a few things that I want you to have up and ready. So uh, in your email that you would have got this morning, there's a Dropbox link. April, if you could just drop the files again, that'll be perfect. For the session, you'll need one, the planning for profit exercise. So the spreadsheet that we're going to use to set your targets, and you'll need the sales budget as well. And you'll also need your profit and loss.
Sorry about that. Don't know
So
where that came from.
if you can grab your profit and loss up from your accounting software, that would be magic. And I'll just get you the Dropbox link for the files, but you'll need the planning for profit Excel sheet, and you'll need the sales budget as well. P&L, if you can grab your P&L for like the last 4 months, month by month, that'd be good. The profit and loss statement out of Xero, out of MYOB, out of QuickBooks, grab that. You'll need that, and then grab the files out of the Dropbox, grab them here, and that's going to make this session really easy for you when we get to doing all the activities, which we will be doing. So make sure you're ready to go on that side of things. All right, let's get started. Let me make sure I can see your beautiful faces, and we'll get into it. What I want to know first, and you'll need the chat box up, so grab the chat box, wave your mouse around. Who here has targets in your business that you use right now? Just hit me with a me in the chat, or a yes if you have targets that you use. A few people yeses, quite a lot of no's as well. All good. We're going to make sure that they happen since we've started with PT. All right, cool. So there's a few of us that have targets. There's a few of us that don't have targets. The next thing I want to know is, what targets do you have? Like, when you think about the targets that you have for your business overall, not just for people, but for your business, what are you targeting? Sean, mostly turnover. We've got some loose targets in here, gross margins. So lots of us are looking at a sale and profit. Like, what sort of profit? Are you looking at overall? Is this gross profit? Is it net profit? Is it percentage? Is it dollars? GP targets, turnover targets. All right, Xavier, looking at turnover, then GP percentage, then net profit percentage. Cool. Anything else that you guys are targeting apart from just monthly sales, GP percentage, net profit? Jody's talking about labor utilization, just started that. GP per hour for Caleb. Quotes. Okay, nice. Yeah, quoting targets, leads targets. A bunch of different types of targets that we can have, right? And it's really important that we're looking at like a bunch of different things. There's conversions. Yeah, cool. And high level, you can look at targets as like a big macro. So conversion target might be a macro target that we have. But if you broke that down and got really specific with your targets to make these super impactful, you might go, when a lead comes in, how many of those turn into a triage, or turn into an inquiry that we go and visit, or turn into where we go and look at the plans, or we do a site visit, and then from there, how many turn into quotes, and then from there, how many turn into jobs. There's a bunch of ways that you can break targets down. We're not going to go all the way to that today, but I'm going to leave you, like, after the session, you're going to leave with a bunch of targets. You're going to get more detailed than just a GP percentage and a turnover target. All right, that's really important. The next question that I have is, how do you use your targets? So bang it in the chat. Like, how do you actually use your targets right now? What do you do with them? Let me know. How do you use your targets? Amanda, look at them longingly. The fluttery eyes. Compare with the P&L, Mike. Yeah, cool. Sean, Sai. All right. Monthly sales meeting, go over all the numbers. Compare with current sales. Oh, what else? I haven't heard much chat after this question. Compare with last year. All right, use them for planning. That's great, John. Cool. I think potentially there's a bit of a gap here. hey, ownership, if you don't really do anything with your targets once you've set them, can you say me in the chat? It's all good. I just think it's quite important. Like if honestly you do fuck all with your targets, it's good to recognize that, because how powerful is a target if you just write it down and you just chuck it on the wall, or you leave it on your computer and you just save it and never look at it again, right? Maybe you look at them longingly and like, man, it would be great if I could get to those. But they don't really do anything for you. How should these help you, right? So if you need to put it as an action point by the end of this, we actually figure out how to use your targets, because you should be able to use these, because this should inspire you. This should help you with your direction, so that when you do when you make your plans, when you show up to work every day, you're getting the team pumped and you're pumped to actually go and crush these. So let's make sure we figure out how to do that as well, because lots of people aren't really using them effectively, as we've just figured out. So really what we want to make sure we do in this session is figure out what targets to have and make sure we reset them, right? We want to make sure that we use them often. So pick a cadence, figure out what that's going to be for you. And so when you sit down and you look at your financials every week, every month, but hopefully every week, we can go and we can pivot and we can create some direction based on the end of that. If you have questions as we go through the session, please make sure you chuck them in the chat. Happy to answer them. I will have time to break out and make sure we're all on the right track as well. And so we can all achieve what we're here to do, which is reset or make our targets so that we've got that thing that's constantly pushing us forward. All right. So we're getting into a couple of things. We're going to be doing the planning for profit exercise, and we're going to be creating a sales budget. If you didn't get those documents, I've just popped that in the chat again. Grab them. You'll need them, and you'll also need your profit and loss statement for about the last 4 months. So if you have 4 months of P&L, that's going to help you with some data that'll help you set some good targets. All right. Now, the reason why we continue to go and look at our targets, and the reason why I do this session frequently, or normally Jeff does a session frequently, I gave him the day off today. It's a public holiday over in the old US of A. So you get me instead. Sorry, everyone. But we do this frequently because, like, honestly, these are so powerful for putting stretch into you and your business. It's like to push the boat out and to help you to continue to strive for better, for more. Now, if you think about physical travel, if you're traveling anywhere by car or boat or plane or train, whatever, you always have a destination that you're heading to, right? And that destination guides the path, right? Helps you pick what roads to use. It helps you pick what stations to hop off at. And this is exactly the same as business, right? If we've got a clear budget or a clear target that we're aiming for, that'll help you guide the path to hit that destination, right? It's like, what things do you need to implement to tweak this so you get there, right? What do you need to change? Who do you need to hire? What do you need to stop doing? What do you need to start doing? But the destination helps you guide the path, right? You want to have targets in all areas of your business. So we just talked about a few that some of you guys have, right? Sales, GP, net profit. That sounded like it was pretty well-rounded. Some of them dollars, some of them percentage. But having KPIs for the business and individual people in your team that flow into your targets is crucial. So if you need to write this down, write this down. But there's a couple of key points to make sure you do a good job here. The first one is you need to think big, right? There's no point setting a target that's 2 to 3% bigger, right? Push your thinking. Honestly, if you're thinking 2 or 3%, you're probably not planning on changing much. Often, if you just keep doing the thing, you'll just keep getting improvement like that. So how do your targets relate back to the vision that you have, right? To what you want life to look like, to how your business is going to, be the vehicle to actually get you towards that. How do your targets relate back to your vision, right? To your goals that you have for yourself, for your family in the future, right? If you want to have other passive incomes, if you want to have holiday homes, all these sorts of things, if that's in your vision, right, you have to be able to think big with your targets so that they can translate back to what you want to achieve. All right. It's important to remember this is a tool to encourage growth and to push you forward. We have to use the targets. So we talked about how some of us weren't using them before, but we have to make sure that we look at this as a tool to help continue to push us. Targets drive decision-making. Right? What do we need to do to stay on track or to get on track? And targets are actually quite a cool way to give yourself like a little bit of a performance review. It's like your business giving you a performance review in a way where if you have achieved it or you haven't achieved it, why did you achieve it? Why didn't you achieve it? What's held you back and what's been the gaps in between, right? So look at it like that. That helps massively. And another important thing, and this is why we do this frequently, is progress trumps perfection, right? When it comes to targeting, you don't have to get this stuff perfect. It's just about putting it down and then aiming towards it, and then we can tweak from there, right? This thing can be tweaked, and it will be tweaked. We will do it again, right? So that's really important. I always like to start before actually targeting at just understanding break even and the break even point. I don't like the concept of break even because honestly, if you're focusing on break even and you're not focusing on profit, that would be silly, right? You need to focus on profit and making good net profit because we're in business not to break even, but to make a whole lot of money, right? So we want to aim for profit and treat profit like a cost of doing business. But it's really useful to understand break even point because it helps for things like if ever you add overheads, which you will, to grow your business, how that impacts what sales you need, and understanding how it's going to impact your numbers. That's mega important. It's very valuable for budgeting certain growth items, like adding people to come in, like operations managers, estimators. If you're getting a new premises or changing what your lease costs are going to be, understanding what that looks like is really important. So I'm just going to run through an example just to make sure we all get that. Can you see my iPad up on the screen? All right, sweet. So to calculate the break-even point, and we might need to use this as we create our sales budget. To create our break-even point, what we want to do is we want to use two numbers. The first number is our fixed cost. So that is the amount that sits in your operating expenses or in your overheads when you look at your profit and loss statement. So if we looked at an overall break-even point, that might be $450,000 for a year as an example, right? And then what I need to do with that number is I need to divide that by the gross profit percentage. So when we think about it as an overall, we're going to be using our profit and loss statement gross profit percentage. So if my business was running at 35% consistently, we would divide the 450,000 by 35%. Could someone bang that into a calculator for me real quick? What's 450,000 divided by 35%? And if you can just chuck it in the chat, that'll be really helpful. All right, so it's a year of fixed costs for my business as an example, divided by my gross profit margin or gross profit percentage. And that's going to give me a sales number. All right, so if I divide that, it's going to give me my annual sales that I need to break even. It's definitely going to be more than 157,000. It's going to be a bigger number. It's going to be over $1 million. So if you need to translate the percentage, it's by 0.35. So 450,000 divided by 0.35. That'll be your 35%. There we go. All right. So if ever you're dividing by a percentage, just use 0. Whatever the percentage is. So in this case, it's going to be 1,285,714. So what that means is if I was looking to break even on 450K of overheads and I had a 35% gross profit margin, I would need 1.285 mil in annual sales. And then to figure out what that would be per month, I could divide that by 12. And then my monthly sales in this case would be 107K. All right. So if I was running that business and I achieved $107,000 in sales every single month, I would break even. So that's a $0 net profit. Now, again, the reason why I want you to know that is because if you add overheads, it's important to go and calculate what your sales needs to be able to return the same net profit that you're currently getting. So an example of that might be, let's just say you wanted to hire an admin person. So if one of my projects on my plan was to go and hire an office manager or hire an admin, and I estimated their cost was going to be 60 grand, that's what I was willing to pay for that office admin. And I still had a 35% GP. what I would do is I would grab that 60K annual and I would divide that by 35%. And can someone bang that into a calculator just so you can, just so we can figure out what that would be? So if we go 60 divided by 0.35, what is that per year? Someone smash it in and let me know in the chat. Sweet, we got 171,428. We got 171,000 per year that would need to make in extra sales to be able to pay for that person and achieve the exact same net profit that we're achieving now on our profit and loss. All right, so if we divide that by 12, we would need to add an extra 14K. All right, so if we did 14K extra in sales per month, that would pay for that person. Anything else on top is going to obviously be extra profit from there. So when we look at these things, often we go, all right, that's a cost. But honestly, when you invest in people and you invest in infrastructure and your overheads, they're all meant to invest so you get a return on that person, right? So an office admin might be things like when you invest in that person, how are they going to return income and how are they going to return profit? Maybe there's more ability for phone calls to be taken, more AR calls being able to go out, more opportunity for you to do more quoting, because at the moment you're bogged down doing XYZ other shit. And so we always need to go back and look at how we quantify it, but it's important that you recognize what you need to do so that when you budget for this stuff, you're clear on the numbers and you can go and make a really good decision based on what you know, which is how much extra sales we have to do. So it's a really helpful equation to just understand. So when your planning process and in your due diligence of your decision making, you can go and make that decision really smartly. Team, does that make sense? Thumbs if that all lands, just so I know. Yalla. All right, cool. If you have questions as we go, please make sure you pop them in the chat and we'll make sure we answer. All right. Cool. Let's start the exercise. So again, if you need the sheet, it's in here, grab it, and I'm going to pop up my sheet on the screen as well. So you all need to grab the planning for profit exercise up on your computer. So we're going to do this together. You might not have done this before. That's all good. You might have done it before. Even better. This is a great opportunity for you to push the boat, right? It's a great opportunity for you to stretch yourself. When you push yourself and you set big targets, remember, it helps us with our course. It helps us with our path. And so when we have a good target and we have something we're trying to achieve, we need to start figuring out what things we need to do to actually get there. And it does kick your butt. So really what we're going to leave with, and the purpose of the exercise, is to give you a really good idea of what you want to hit each month to achieve your target net profit. Right, all the way down to the leads that you need to generate. So how many calls or how many emails are going to be coming in so that you can achieve that, right? So all the steps along the way. So the first thing that you'll notice is right up the top, we start with the end in mind, essentially. What is our desired net profit target we want to hit? So likely what you'll know right now is how much net profit you're currently doing. Now, if you want to, you could go and look at your current performance based on your previous P&Ls. But you've probably got a pretty good understanding of what your net profit is right now. Like I said, we don't want to just aim for 2 to 3%. We want this to be something that we can achieve over the next year or so, right? So we're pushing ourselves to make sure that we're thinking future. We're going to implement a whole bunch of, increasing our profitability strategies over the course of that time. So where do you want to have your net profit? And you need to write it in as a yearly figure. All right, so an annual figure over the next year. What do you want to achieve? All right. Kurt just private messaged me and asked me what percentage we should aim for. Look, 15 to 20% is a good net profit target. But what I want you to do is not start there, because if you're doing that, you're starting with your current revenue and you're dialing that back to a percentage. That's all right. No worries. What you do if you start with a profit percentage is you're thinking about your percentage of your revenue. And if you limit yourself on your revenue, you limit yourself on your profit straight away. You're way better to just start with your thinking around profit, right? What is a profit number that you want to aim for? Now, if you in your last financial year hit 50 grand or 100 grand and you want to aim for 300 grand, That's really going to challenge you to start doing a whole bunch of stuff to get yourself there, right? But what you might notice as we go through the rest of this is that as you tweak GP, you're going to need to do a lot less revenue to be able to achieve some of this. So trust me, just start with a profit dollar. All right. Once you've done that, can you bang your profit figure in the chat box? I want to know that you've done it. I'm going to pop in 300 in my example, 300K, 200K, Matt. Sweet. Bang it in, team. 300, 200, 100, 250, 250, 600. Just so you guys know, I'm going to be putting you into some breakout rooms soon. If you've been a pussy, you'll get told you're being a pussy by the rest of the people in your group. So don't play small here. If you're just thinking about status quo, you're in the wrong place. Play big, right? Make sure that you push yourself. I know that can be hard, but we're thinking down the track. We're going to implement a whole bunch of stuff to get us there, all right? So banging your net profit figure, that's a good start. All right. The next thing, yes, $1 million, Jake and Nazia, good stuff. All right. Next thing that we need to do is we need to enter our fixed costs, including your salary. So when you do that, the first thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you're included. So if you currently take a drawing, you need to have a reasonable market salary included in your fixed cost for a year. So if you're not paying yourself minimum 100 grand, I'm going to make sure that you know that you're worth minimum 100 grand for the role that you do. That has to be included in there. Some of you will be paying yourself higher. Doug, that's super specific. I love that. Nice. Yeah. So make sure that it's at least 100. And then what we want to do is we want to think about any sort of growth that's going on. So if you are thinking about in your next plan, in your next quarter, in your next 6 months, you're going to be hiring an operations manager or an office manager or an estimator or a salesperson or whatever, make sure that that number is in there and you've thought about that. So here's the best way to do it. You'll grab your P&L. I would go and look at the last 4 months of your OPEX and your profit and loss and grab those numbers and total them and divide them by 4. That's your average. And then times that by 12. That moves it to a year. Or if you want to be simple, you can just times that by 3. Right? As long as it's 4 months worth. Okay. And so what that will do is it'll give you the latest fixed costs. So if you've added fixed costs in the last, year, that'll give you the most up-to-date average that you can use. Okay. So what we want is we want a fixed cost number that's good and that we're playing with for real. So for a start, grab that average. If you're going to use 4 months of P&L, just grab the 4 months and then times that total by 3. That'll give you a year's worth because we need a year's worth here. And then add any costs that you're going to need to factor that you know already, right? Remember, this doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to be a good estimate. Dan, yes, it does include your salary. So if your P&L and your OPEX doesn't include your salary, you need to add that into the spreadsheet, okay? And if you put yourself in a 60K, please fly to Hamilton so I can slap you. You're not worth 60K. All right, it needs to be at least 100. If you came and worked for me, I'd pay you 100, so you have to pay yourself 100. Maybe not more. Depends how you show up. I'm just kidding. But let's get that figure in, all right? So average fixed costs. Sarah, if you've got 4 months of your P&L, just times that number by 3. We're essentially making a whole year's worth, right? 12 months worth of fixed costs. I just don't want you to use the last 12 months you've added to your fixed costs because it's probably gone up and we need to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. Okay. Not your guys on the tools. This is just your fixed costs. So if you have your team members, like your guys on the tools and any materials or any subbies sitting in your fixed costs right now, they should be in your COGS. Just take an estimate and pull it out if you haven't fixed your P&L yet. So bang that figure in. And can you just hit done in the chat when you're done, just so I know we can move on? I want to get a good vibe for it. Fixed cost for the year. Harry? A full year. So if you figured out your monthly, we need to take that to 12 months, so full year worth. Okay, perfect. All right. So once we've popped that in, we've got to figure that spot out here, which is our required gross profit in dollars. This is the amount of money from your jobs that you need to make in an entire year. So in my example, I've got 800,000. That's cool. Now I need to figure out how much annual sales I need to do to be able to achieve that. So your gross profit margin percentage is what you need to put in. Now, the gross profit margin percentage isn't your target that you price at. It isn't your back costed average. It's the gross profit margin percentage on your profit and loss. All right. So what that factors in is if you have poor labor utilization, if you don't have enough work, all of that, it factors in, okay? So obviously we want our jobs to be at a certain margin and that to translate right through to our profit and loss. But when we factor in things like team meetings and if there's scheduling issues and anything like that comes up, there's a gap. And so we need to make sure that we use our gross profit margin percentage from our profit and loss. So if you bang that in, that's going to give you your total annual sales. This is a raw GP percentage. So your sales minus your wages on the tools, minus your materials, minus your equipment hire, minus your subbies. That's what you should have on your profit and loss. And it's just the gross profit divided by the sales times 100 is your GP percentage on the P&L. If you can grab that from your profit and loss, like if it just tells you, that's perfect. But if you need, and April, if you could bang this in the chat, that'll be helpful. But your gross profit margin percentage calculation is gross profit dollars divided by sales times 100. Now, here's the thing though. This should be a target. So if your gross profit percentage right now on your P&L is 30, but it shouldn't be 30, and it should be what you're targeting at, which might be 38 or 45. You want to aim for that, right? Because again, what we're going to do over the next year and continuously as we go is we're going to be looking at how we can improve gross profit margin percentage, right? So how we make our jobs more efficient, how we get our pricing right. And so you're going to do a bunch of stuff to make sure that you are constantly improving your GP. And so what is your target going to be? And the cool thing about this, when you go and play with the spreadsheet, is that right now I've got it at 40, but if I wanted to go from 40 to 44%, and that's what I wanted to do over the next year, look at what it does to sales. It means I have to do way less jobs. I have to do almost $200,000 less in a year of turnover to achieve the net profit. So we want to constantly aim for better GP. Now, you'll have an inkling right now as to how much work you've done on this and how much more you'll be able to improve it over a year. But it's important that we constantly look at that shift, right? And we think about the target there because it's another target where we go, cool, if I have to get a 4% lift in my GP, I'm going to have to go and do some stuff to get the result, right? Change some pricing, change some efficiencies, get better processes, train guys better, increase the accountability. Like all of these things are going to help us achieve better gross profit margin. We just need to make sure we figure out what that is and create a target first to do it. So we know what we're aiming for. So then we can go and decide on actions. Okay. So in my example, I need to do about 1.8 mil a year in turnover to achieve 300,000 profit, which is 150K. All right. Next thing to do is we need to put in our average sale value. Now you can target for more here. That's totally fine. But I just want to start with what we currently do. So a real simple calculation for this is the total sales that you do in a period of time. So just use a month. The last month could be an easy example, right? February. And grab that sales amount. So your total turnover, whatever you did in sales for Feb, and just divide that by the amount of jobs that you did. Now, what I often hear with this is, hey, we do a bunch of different sizes of jobs. We do some commercial work. Some of our jobs are 80 grand, 100 grand. And then we just do, mum and dad jobs as well. And some of them are $500 or $1,000. There is variation in jobs in a lot of your businesses. That's okay. All you need to do is just go total sales divided by total jobs. That is your average. That is your average. You cannot argue with me about it. All right. So what you need to do is go and grab your total sales to do that on your P&L. And then if you need to pop into your job management software, do that. How many jobs did you complete in Feb when you invoiced it, Sean? Hey, look, to be fair,
progress invoicing.
Yeah. Look, if that's like the bulk of your jobs, if you do progress based on like just time, so every month you do a progress claim, or every 2 weeks you do a progress claim, just the amount that you build. Yeah. So it's still the same thing, man.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you guys bang in your average sale once you've got that, just so I know you've done it? Just put in the dollar figure. Cool. 1,600, 20K, 2 mil, 500, 1,700, 720. Nice. Bang it in for me as soon as you're done. 25K. Perfect. After you've done this, what you're left with is how many jobs you need to complete each month. Right? So now you know if you were in my business and I wanted to make 300,000 in net profit, you have to do 118 jobs per month. Right? That's how many jobs you need to do per month. Yes, less GST. This is less GST. Yeah. So 300,000 net profit dollars per month, 118 jobs per month to be able to do that. Oh, sorry, 300,000 net profit per year is 118 jobs per month. Okay. And so the next thing that we need to do is we need to enter our conversion rate. So if we get a lead in, how many of those leads turn into jobs? And if you don't know this number because you don't track it, just take your best guess. So from an inquiry coming in to people accepting the jobs, how many of them convert? How many out of 10 convert? If 6 out of 10 convert on average, you reckon that's 60%. If you track this better, Alexis, sounds like you're tracking this. Pop that number in. And what it'll do is it'll spit out how many leads you require each month. Okay. And the number that you use to measure this is the number that it's going to spit out. So for example, if I know some like high-end landscapers, the way that they track conversion rate is from a site visit. They will count that as like a qualified lead when they go to site, and then they'll track how many of those turn into jobs. That just means this is telling you how many site visits you need to do, right? If I was tracking it, and this would be my preferred way of tracking it, if every phone call and email that comes in as a lead, that's an opportunity to turn into a job. If I track how many of those turn into a job, then that is the thing that I need to track when I think about the 168 leads that I require each month, right? So how you think about it is how it gets targeted, is how you need to make sure you get the result at the end of the day. All right. So once you've done that, can you tell me in the chat, how many leads do you require each month to achieve your net profit goal? Pop that number in for me. 145, Jade, 141, Justin, 15, Brendan, 7, Sean, 1,300, Matt. Cool. 137, Jack, 80, 1 Mark. 1 Mark? Is that right? You get 1 lead a month? Somebody check that when we go into the breakout rooms just to make sure. We want to make sure Mark's set up for success. I just want to know.
I understand, yes.
Yes? Okay, good. Kurt, 618, Steve, 29, Bryn, 43. All right, we've getting a lot of responses. I'm pretty confident that we're yeah, I would absolutely do that, Emma. I would count the jobs that we're turning down as leads. What that gives you, just as a little side note, is if you're turning down jobs and you're getting shitty leads, like a bunch of people calling for work that you don't want, that's a measure of our marketing as well, right? Like, how do we get our marketing more refined so that we get them in? It might not necessarily always mean that you need to change anything. Like, we get a bunch of shit leads here at PT all the time. But honestly, it's just part of the drill. And it's the same as when you go and hire people, right? Like, I would never say be disheartened by all of the people from over in India or whatever applying to come and work, because like it happens no matter what. And so, you know, you want to refine your targeting and all that sort of stuff, but that's okay. Still count it. Do we count jobs where we have reoccurring maintenance agreements? I probably wouldn't count it if you like show up and don't talk to them every month. Or if you do count it as one lead, one job, and it's 100% conversion. But if you, if they just periodically come and like talk to you about it, ask you to come and do a job, and it's just like, hey, Johnny, I need you to come and do this at this time, and you do it, then absolutely it is. John Anderson, 598. Okay, perfect. So here's what we've got right now. We've essentially got the vision that we've created, right? We've put some goals around that. So target budget, what we want. We've mapped that out into monthly sales. We've broken this down into how many jobs we need to do and how many leads we need to secure to get those jobs to achieve our target for net profit, right? Now, all we need to start doing is make sure we measure all this sort of stuff so we know if we're on track or not. And then we can go and tweak and pivot to change things to achieve it, right? So that's really important. Now, if you're looking at this right now and you're thinking, fuck, 1.8 million feels like super out of reach or whatever your revenue target is, hey, that's okay, right? It's really important that you go, all right, sweet, that's what I want to get to. It could be a 2-year goal instead of a this year goal, and that's also good. But you can tweak it for next year if you feel like you need to, or make it just a really good stretch for this year, right? We want to play big. It's really important. Hey, Molly, even if you don't have like super hard numbers, I would still just like have a crack at creating some target. And then once you fix the numbers up, yeah, definitely go tweak, but just have the best go at it. And then if you send it through to us, we can also have a look and talk to you about it as well. I think it's always good to at least go from what you know and have something and then just go for little tweaks from there. Yeah, so Karen, if you need to do it over like a longer period, one way that you can do it is take like an annual sales revenue. So if you use the annual sales that you've done over the last year and the amount of jobs that you did over the last year, then if that's 12 pulls a year, then that's the number. Like, and what that means is that you need to do one a month effectively, right? So if that's the target, then awesome. And if you're like, you need to take the new for your new target, it'll automatically pull that back to like the amount with the new revenue, how many you need to do. So it might be like 1.2 or 1.3 or whatever. So overall, you're going to know how many you need to do per year to achieve your revenue target, to achieve your annual net profit target, right? All right, sweet. So, hey, some of you guys might have had yourselves checked if you've been a bit soft about your targets, hopefully. If you got checked on your targets, you should chuck me in the chat. You might have come back out with a slightly higher target. Hopefully there was a bit of a, slap in there from people that were being a bit soft, but, if you were, own up to it. If you don't want to own up to it, that's okay. Just be less soft. Fully checked by Luke Hayho. Mike Levings, hey man, good on you for owning up to that, brother. Sometimes we need a little bit of a second look, right? That is all good. What we're going to do now is we're going to turn our targets. So we've got some simple targets and we're going to get a bit more detailed with them. That'll help us when we sit down and look at our P&L. When we sit down and we look at our numbers, we want to know what we're comparing against. That's important. So a sales budget's really good for that. So if you pull up the sales budget Excel spreadsheet, we're going to just take a couple of the numbers across. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just get a little bit more detailed on each of the line items. Okay. So the first thing that you need to do once you've got your sales budget up is you need to go and grab your monthly sales target from your planning for profit tool and just move it straight across to the sales budget. So for me, it's 151,515. If I open up the sales budget, the sales line right at the top here is the monthly revenue that I need to budget, right? So for me, it was 151,415, and I need to do that every month. So if I was going to go and make sure that that was in there, I can just copy that number across to every single month. If you just want to do it for 1 month for now, that's totally cool. But that's the easiest place to start, okay? The second thing that we need to do, and you've done a lot of the hard work here, but we need to estimate our cost of goods sold. All right. So overall, what we know right now is what our GP percentage is going to be. So for me, I targeted my GP at, I go back here, I think it was 44%. Yeah, 44%. That means if I want to achieve a 44% GP, I need to have the inverse of 100 of that as cost of goods sold. So that's 56%, right? So what I now know is if I go 151,415, which is my monthly sales budget, and I take that and I figure out how much COGS I need to have, that means in my example that I'll need to have 56% of 151,415 as cost of goods sold. So for me, that's 84,792. All right. So all I did there is I just went 100 minus 44. That's my percentage of my revenue. That's my cost of goods sold because I just did an inverse of each other. And now what I need to do is I need to figure out the percentage that is going to be my materials, my subbies, and my labor. Now I can spit out some assumptions for you, but that's not really the smartest way to do this. I want to give you a little calculation to figure that out. So you'll need your profit and loss for this, and I'll just quickly show you on my iPad. Okay. So if you go and look at last month, and that's the easiest way to do it, just go look at last month if you reckon it was a pretty normal month, and just grab your revenue as your first thing. So what was your revenue in dollars? So I'll just use 100 grand, right, as an example. But if you go and do that from your profit and loss, write that down. Now you would have spent a certain amount of money on materials. And generally the amount of materials that you spend is in proportion to your revenue by a pretty similar amount. You might see a little bit of this, especially if you do some bulk ordering and things like that sometimes. So if you want to take an average over a few months, all good, do that. It will be more accurate. But if you reckon it was a pretty standard month, all you need to go and do is just have a look at like how much of your month was materials. So for example, if I go and look at this and I had 28,000 of materials, then what I need to do is turn that into a percentage. So in this case, it's really, really easy because it's just 28% and you can easily figure that out. But yours will be a little bit harder than that. Not too much harder. All you need to do is you need to grab your MATS dollars and divide that by your revenue in dollars and then times that by 100. All right. That's the first thing to do. Okay. So now we've got a percentage of our revenue. That is your materials. That's what we just figured out. All right. So if in my case, I had 28,000 in materials, I'd go 28,000 divided by 100,000, which is my revenue. I times that by 100. And now I've got my percentage of revenue. That's materials. Okay. So that's step one. We need to figure out their percentage. And now you've got a percentage. Okay. The next thing to do, step two, is to grab our new revenue that we've targeted on our sales budget. So for me, this is rev target for a month. In my case, it was 151,415. And what I want to do is I want to times that by that percentage that we just got. So for me, it was 28%, right? You'll have your own percentage. It'll be slightly different. I need to use that percentage. So if I was going to do that, I'd times it by 28%. If you can do that on your calculator, or if you can't, you do 0.28. Alexis, 25%. Sweet. Sounds about right. If you had a crazy number, like 70% or something, you're either making fucking $0 or it's not right. Yeah. Or it's a month where you've just overbought the hell out of materials so that you could maybe get an advance and get a cheaper rate or something. So the first step, we need to grab last month's or an average. That's okay. I'll take Matt. No worries. We need to grab our historical data, so monthly revenue, and then we need to grab our materials as dollars from that same period. So if you're just using last month because it was normal, just use last month. That's fine. And you'll have those two in dollars. Yeah. these two here. And so we go our dollars in materials. That's that. Our divided by our dollars in revenue. So my example was 28,000 divided by 100,000. We divide and we times that by 100, and that gives us a percentage. In my case, it was 28%. You'll have your own percentage. And the second thing we do is we grab our revenue target. So the one, if I move this, the one that's up here that you've just put in that you took from your planning for profit exercise, and you times that by that percentage that you just got. If we look at this, 28% or 0.28. So I shouldn't have put the percentage there. If you're just calculating it, it's the monthly revenue times 0.28. Okay. And then once you've done that, so if I do that, for example, if I go in my calculator, 151,415 times 0.28, I get $42,397. So now in this figure here, that's going to be my target for materials spent. So I put that number in. Okay. That's the first step to getting that part right.
What?
April, can you mute that, please?
I'm just in a webinar.
So that is how we figure out our cost of goods sold, because this is in proportion to the revenue, right? And so now we've got a percentage of our revenue normally that would be 42%. Okay, so that's the first thing to factor. Your labor and your subbies are going to be exactly the same. So use exactly the same calculation to figure out your percentage of your rev and then how that translates into your monthly budget. The reason why it's really important is because what you might have in your business is a bit of seasonality or instability in your monthly revenue. So you might have some months that go insanely hard, right? So if I think about like, pool builders, for example, you're going to be way busier at a certain time of year than other times of year, right? If you're in HVAC, you're probably having the same thing. So you'll have a time where just the market goes hard, you get heaps of calls and you're busy as hell. And then you've got a time of year where you like to get all your guys on their annual leave, like taking holidays and stuff, because it just isn't that busy, right? Like for HVAC, it's really busy in the winter and the summer, right? Less so in the autumn and the spring, right? So if that's a reality for you, when you go and do this properly, you're probably not just going to have 151,000 in every month. You might have some months that you're targeting 180, and then some months where you're targeting 120. Okay. And so if you're doing that and you want to use this really well, you'll just use a percentage of your targeted revenue. That's your materials. A percentage of your monthly revenue, that's labor and subbies inside these line items. Okay. So that's the first step to getting this right. Once you go and do that, what you'll be left with is your target gross profit that should line up with your target that you just set, right? So for me, it would be 44 if I went and calculated these ones as well. But that's what we need to do to make a start here. Okay, so once you've done that part and you've done the exact same calculation for the subbies and the labor, you'll be left with your gross profit target. That's first step done. The second thing to do after this is to start going and estimating your budget for your overheads. And that's pretty simple, right? There'll be some stuff that's fully static. And that's the easiest place to start. So if you pay $4,000 a rent per month, and that's not looking at changing, like you signed into a lease for the next year, and that's what you're going to be paying for your rent, you can just go and bang that in. So if you've got rent in here, is rent. Be good if I knew this. Office, workshop, and rent expenses. Cool. If that's the same thing, just go and put that in over each month. If you pay it monthly in there, all right? And if you pay it annually, just divide it by 12 and put it in. And at least then you can allocate and you know what that's going to look like. Because this isn't a cash flow forecast. This is a budget, right? So we annualize everything to make sure that we understand what we need to do each month to impact us being able to get that net profit after we pay our expenses each month. Okay, so things like rent, things like accounting fees, things like fixed salaries that aren't going to change, maybe subscriptions to job management software, Xero, they're quite easy to combine and put in. For anything else that has a little bit of ups and downs, yeah, I'll show you that in just a sec. Anything else that has ups and downs, right? So things that you pay for less frequently, try and just use the last 4 months of your profit and loss and use that as an average, right? Like as we're growing our business and investing, it's really good to go and look at, like, you know, if you have added on new salaries and things, or there's a little bit of bonus up and down for your people, use an average over about 4 months. 4 months is usually pretty good. If you do that, times it by 3, same as what we did earlier in the session, that'll help you to use that number and then annualize it. All right. One thing to consider with your fixed costs, though, is if you are planning on hiring somebody into your overheads, anybody here planning on hiring like an operations manager over the next year, sales manager, office manager, another scheduler, anything like that, like lots of hands going up? If that's you, I would put that in. Like if you know that you're looking to hire an operations manager in 3 months' time, then just budget for that. Right? If you know that that's going to cost you in the salary 120 grand a year, then budget for that. Right? It's 10 grand a month. No point trying to trick yourself into thinking, what do I need to do in my current situation, when honestly we're changing it. And you should have factored that before as well. So hopefully that will help you get clear on what that looks like. I'll put that calculation back up. If there's any specific questions about it, just let me know if I haven't detailed it well enough. And so once you continue to do that, it'll flesh out what your net profit in dollars and the percentage will look like right down the bottom. So all you need to do is fill in the white boxes, or the blue boxes, sorry, in that sheet. Okay. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to have a crack at it and send it through to us at member support, and we'll have a look. Monthly sales required to go with the percentage calculation. Hayden, can you just unmute?
Sure.
I like talking to you anyway. What do you need, man?
So I've got my total, the monthly sales required, and then breaking that into the 20% of my, the material subby labor calculation.
Cool. So your thing, is it the current one or the future one, like to put into your budget?
Future.
Okay, sweet. So you've got the revenue target. So what's your revenue target monthly?
98,333.
Okay, sweet. So let's use yours, 98,323. And do you already have those three percentages?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So what's your labor percentage of your revenue at the moment?
30%.
30%. What's your materials?
20%.
Wait, do you have any subbies?
2%.
2%. Sweet. So if you were to do that, the way you would calculate it is you would go 98. Well, all of these are times 98,323. So if you were to do that on a calculator, so if I was to do it, I'd go 98,323, and I would times that by, for your labor, 30%, 0.3. And that will give me $29,496.90. So that's like the budget for your labor at that target rate. So if you budgeted higher in the future, right? So 120 grand or something monthly, then what you'd end up doing is you'd go 120 grand times the 30%, and that would give you a higher number that would go into your COGS. Does that make sense?
It does.
Nice. And so if we did the same thing for your materials, it's 98,323, and we'd times that by 0.2, and that would give us our materials, which is essentially 20 grand. All right, so 19,664. And so if you pop those in, that's going to go ahead and it's going to give you that gross profit, right? Same thing with the 2%, you just go times 0.02.
Yep, thank you.
Perfect. All right, nice.
Cam, Alexis would like to know, what if your labor and materials total percentage is larger than your net profit target?
What if your total labor and materials is larger than your net profit target? So you've got 33 and 25, which means you've got 58%, which is only going to leave you with 42%. Your target's 45%. What that means is, and this is a good point. What that means is right now, your current GP, because you've used current data, isn't at your target, right? So at the end of the day, what you need to do is you need to tweak those numbers back. That's just a good start point, but you need to tweak those numbers back so that it achieves the 45%, which means that you need to be more efficient with your pricing or the guys on site. So processes, accountability, training. And so, yeah, that just showed a gap between where you're currently at. So I would assume currently, Alexis, in your business, you're getting about 42%, right, on your on your P&L when you look at the numbers as an average based on what you just looked at. And the tweak in the numbers bring that back to 45% based on you doing the improvements. So when you go and look at the budget, it's going to be less labor. If you've gone and pushed that target, which you should have, so you'll be doing more revenue than what you're doing right now, it doesn't mean you need to spend less money on your labor. It just means that your labor is going to become more efficient because you're pricing better and you're more efficient. Okay. That's all you need to do. Good question, Alexis. That's magic. All right. So here's the actions. What we need to do from here is we've got our planning for profit. I would absolutely encourage you to print that thing off and put it on the wall. Make sure you stare at it. Make sure it's there constantly. And then once you get your sales budget done, which you need to do after, is send it through. We'll check you on anything, or if you need help, like definitely do let us know, and we'll make sure you get the help. And then from that point, what you want to do is when you go and look at your P&L, and you want to look at this thing frequently, right? Am I on target to achieving what I set out to achieve this month? Like, is my revenue on track? Are my costs on track? Is our job profitability actually going to lead to us achieving our gross profit margins? So that at the end of the day, you're constantly looking at what you need to go and tweak and change, what you need to highlight for the team, so that you achieve the net profit results that you want to achieve, that you targeted to achieve. And then when you create your 6-week plans, you're doing that stuff to make sure that you've picked the pathway, right? You're working on the right things to get you towards that net profit. So now that you have a strong target, you can start to set your direction and go and tweak the things that aren't getting you there and start to implement the stuff that'll get you there. All right. So go and finish your sales budget, send it through. If you have questions, I've had a couple of messages. Definitely make sure you let us know. I'll reach out to those ones that have messaged me already. And yeah, we'll definitely lock in some time to help. If you're stuck with this stuff, we need to get it right, because targets are what you need constantly to make sure that you work on the right things so that you can achieve what you want to achieve. So I'll leave the session there, guys, and I'll catch you all very soon.